Today we're heading along the Orongorongo Track, which is a fairly well-formed track at the back of Wainuiomata near Lower Hutt in New Zealand, and it's a bit muddy here, but basically it's a really good way to access quite a wild river valley. The Orongorongo River is pretty fearsome when it's in flood, but when it's not, it's a big, empty, stony valley under some really impressive mountains. So come along and have a look. The first stage of today's walk is along the Orongorongo Track, as is the last stage, I guess, but that depends on which way I decide I want to come home. But it's a really well-formed track. Mimics, I think, not that I've been on one yet, tripping up, mimics what I think a great walk kind of represents in New Zealand, which is a fairly well-maintained, nice, easy graded walk through some impressive forest. In saying that, every time I do it, because it's not that hard, I always expect it to be really easy, and then it's a little bit harder than I remember. Probably you have to couple that with the fact that I typically would do this walk when I'm starting back into walking, after I've been a bit of a lazy bastard and I am trying to get my trail legs back under me. That's a little bit of what this is today. It can be very easy for me to generate. I don't really generate it, it's the opposite of generating it. I get inertia and I don't go hiking or walking, tramping, or whatever you'd like to call it. Not looking to offend anyone. But I get this thing where I don't go for a while and it becomes much easier not to go. What I always remember after half an hour on a trail, I really love it. I wonder why I don't do it more. Probably because I'm dumb, but it can't just be that, you know. There must be other things stopping me doing it, but certainly, you know, there's work and family and all that kind of stuff, but there's no real excuse for it. You know, anyone can fit in a couple of hours a week minimum, and that I don't, it's a deep pity. I'm gonna have to work on that. I always tell my dad that he needs to stop and smell the roses more. It's a saying, there's not actually roses out here, but I think I'm going to take my own advice. I'm only halfway along the Orongorongo Track, which is not that far, but I brought some cold brew and I want it, so I'm going to have some. Yeah. Oh, that's good. That is good. There's a nicely graded zigzag track that heads down to the Orongorongo River Valley, that way. But it's closed because there's a massive slip where the river has decided to erode away the wall of the cliff on which the track sits. And so now I'm scrambling through muddy stuff here on a new old trail. This trail is called Jacob's Ladder, and it used to be the way that you got into the Orongorongo River Valley until it was replaced, I guess, for something that was a little bit more accessible because so many people use this trail. But honestly, apart from being muddy and a bit annoying, I kind of like this. It feels like you're heading back in time, you know? It's a beautiful trail, a little bit harder, I guess, but you know, nothing ridiculous. It is very muddy though. It's muddy. You can't get around it. I'll show you. As you can see, the Orongorongo River Valley is quite big. There's not a whole lot of water running through it. There's water taken from further up the river for the water supply for the Hutt Valley and I think for Wellington. Not exactly sure, but you're not going to be able to hear that probably because the wind might be a voiceover. Who knows? It's exciting, isn't it? Not knowing what's in your future. It might seem silly with a river this low, but I always take a moment when I cross a body of water of any kind that just to make sure that I'm not making a dumb decision and to make sure that I'm going to be safe. I'm kind of afraid of drowning. Call me crazy. Yeah, don't want to do it. So some things I always look out for are like obvious places where you can cross, and in this case there's a four-wheel drive track that runs up this river valley and I'm crossing where they do. Kind of makes sense, I think. But yeah, so another little tip when you're crossing a river, don't pick your feet up too high if you don't have to. It's that's how the current gets your feet and pushes them away and makes things harder for you. I just shuffle across a river. And if it's ever in flood, you can't see the bottom or anything like that, just don't do it. You know, your life isn't worth getting to the trailhead quicker than you otherwise would have. Make smart calls. As I walk up this valley, I'm sort of thinking about what it really is, you know? It's obviously a river valley, that goes without saying, but it's impressive that enough water can pour down here in a storm, you know, when the river's in flood, and just move trees and shunt these rocks around. It's kind of humbling in a way to be in a place like this. You know, I haven't seen anyone for a while. I'm on my own. I like that. I like the self-sufficiency that requires, you know. Within a range, no one's going to help me unless I really, really need it. And I like that. I like that about, you know, a wilderness experience. But it is humbling. It definitely is. I'm not absolutely sure, but I'm fairly confident that is Mount Papatahi, which is one of the ways that you can traverse across into the Wairarapa. I've never done it. Apparently the track is actually not maintained any longer, so it's worth doing, but it's only worth doing if you're confident, maybe with a group, if that's something that you need or you'd feel more comfortable with. Tall though. She looks tall. Well, this was the main reason for the exploration today. Just finding the start of the Mount Matthews and the South Saddle tracks. I've got a little further, but time for coffee, I think. So yeah, I can see why people find this kind of tramping appealing. You feel very isolated out here. You know, instantly it feels like I'm not going to see a person, you know. In a good way though, you know, it's rugged, but it's definitely doable. It's just, I don't know, there's something special about being in forest and woods like this. I need to do this more, I really do. Something about cold brew coffee, which I really like. Having done a bit of both, I think it's fair to say that the true right of the stream is the easier one to go along. I guess that was an experiment worth doing because this is much quicker and easier, which I like. So it seems we've found the junction to take the Big Bend track or the Whakanui track. I'll be taking Big Bend track for as long as I can tolerate it today. Something different, just to show you guys something different. You're welcome. But yeah, to find an easy way to get in here. And I think this might be it. I guess. Let's get in here. Oh, this is slippery. I like it. You know, I will say, getting your feet wet on a day like today where it's a bit warm is quite nice. Oh, here we go. Into the forest. So we're returning via a track called the Big Bend track. That's essentially a tramping track which runs parallel to the true right. I always mix those up. The true right of the Orongorongo River. Provides some interesting walking. Lots of it's flat. There's some steep bits and some really muddy bits, which I don't know if I'm feeling those. So I might jump back out onto the river if I can't be bothered with those. But yeah, this walk is great. I'm loving it. It's not too hard. It's quite easy. It's probably going to end up being 20 or 22 Ks, something like that. Sort of really depends. But yeah, what a good day. How lucky am I to be able to do this? So yeah, this track is a little steeper than I remember. And I remember when I first started doing walks like this, thinking, oh gosh, how am I going to survive? I feel like I'm going to die. You know, you get your heartbeat going in your head, you're out of breath, all that kind of thing. And the trick is, generally you can do it. So sort of learned that I just have to push through the pain. I mean, this isn't too bad. It's only a little up, but if you find going uphill hard, just keep doing it. It does get considerably easier to hurt yourself for falling over. So when it's been wet, like it has the last few days, this can get kind of gross, kind of difficult to walk through. The trick is not to give it too much respect and not to give it too much fear, because it's just mud. You know, if you're not going to sink in to the point where you lose your shoes or boots, then honestly, why worry about it? Just sort of plug through. Alright, I think that about does it for today. We've only got the bits of this walk that you've already seen to do, and so I'm going to clip it off. If you are still watching at this point, thank you very much. It's special to me that I can share these little adventures with people. It's really appreciated if you're still here. Thank you.